Well, good morning and Happy New Year. We are recording this just shortly after the New Year. So, good morning. My name is Amanda Bilek. I am the Senior Public Policy Director for Minnesota Corn. I am joined with our Communications Director, Nate Gottlieb, and then our current president, Jim Kanten of MCGA, and our most immediate past president, Dana Allen-Tully, who is also serving as chair of our Government Relations Committee into the next year. We wanted to just take a few minutes today in the new year to kind of recap a few things that happened at the very end of 2024, in particular with some work that Congress did in passing an economic and disaster assistance package in an end of the year spending bill. So to get started, before we start digging into those details, if I could just turn it over to you, President Canton Jim, if you'd give a brief overview of some of MCGA's federal advocacy activities over the course of the year.
Yes, I'd like to do that. We do several things throughout the year. Two of the larger things we do is we have two fly-ins to Washington, D.C. throughout the year. Uh, One in March with a smaller group of farmers, and then one in July. That's during a national corn growers corn congress, where most of the Minnesota delegation comes out there. When we're out there, we meet with most members of the Minnesota delegation in the House and Senate, talk to several leaders uh, in the agricultural community and several federal agencies to engage in Minnesota priorities. Then also when we're back here in state, we meet with the delegation when we can in state. We invite them out to our farms to visit our farms and to see what goes on in our farms in a day-to-day life. Also, Farm Fest is another big thing where we get to interact with these legislators to bring our concerns to them. And then we also ask members co-sponsor or lead legislation that supports Minnesota corn's priorities. And we share information with offices on Minnesota corn research policy things and utilization initiatives that we've done.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Well, and so during the course of the year, you'd mentioned one of the things we do is this March fly-in. And this past March, Dana, there was a handout that you brought along on that trip that was really used to share with federal policymakers to help communicate some of the worsening financial picture for Minnesota corn farmers, and especially as we were dealing with a difficult or what became a difficult kind of planting season. But you shared that handout with lawmakers, and can you talk a little bit about that handout and what was their reaction during that March fly-in?
Sure, thanks, Amanda. Um, so I have to give credit where credit's due, and Ken Thesey, a farm business analyst, had put this together, looking at using FinBin data. And so it's actual farmer data from the southern Minnesota and breaking it out by what our input costs are, what rental costs are, and then comparing that to projected commodity prices. And so what really stuck out was just the ease of which the conversation became in putting all of those dollar figures into a reference point where this is how many bushels per acre we need to produce in order to cover specific costs. And so as we went through those numbers for 2024, projecting that in March, commodity price was 466 was our spring price for crop insurance. And even at 466, we were projected to lose money, or that we needed to meet like a 250 bushel an acre average yield in order to break even. And so as commodity prices continued to drop, based on this data, we had a premonition that we were really going to have some growers that were in a hard spot. It wasn't just a challenging spring, it became the economic side and what kind of productivity we were going to need in order to just cover our basic costs. And so it really hit home with many of the legislators that we met with, including Ranking Member Bozeman and his team, as well as Chairman Thompson's team, and then our Minnesota representatives. And so this is a spreadsheet or a worksheet that Ken TC continues to update, and it really does provide a meaningful spot in words and in numbers that kind of hit home to people.
That's great. Well, and I know that that was during our spring fly-in, and we had the farm bill that had been extended for a year. It was going to be reauthorized in 2023, and then we were going into 2024. And so this was really helpful for talking about some of the farm bill priorities. And so, Jim, would you mind just talking about a few of the federal farm bill priorities that we have had for the last couple of years and will continue to have as we sort of still work to get that farm bill reauthorized?
Yeah, I guess we have several different priorities. One of the priorities that we have would be updating cost of production to a more current time frame. Right now, it's based off 2012 cost of production, and things have changed a lot since 2012 on the cost of production. So we'd like to get that closer to a current time frame. Also, uh, crop insurance. We support like narrowing the deductibles and keeping crop insurance strong. Because without crop insurance, it'll be harder for us to get loans and survive natural disasters and things like that. Another one of our things is the market access program and the foreign market development funds. These are funds that help us go out and develop trade with other nations. So they're vital to helping us get rid of our oversupply of our commodities to other places so that we can have a strong price. And then trade promotion is the Trade Promotion Authority, I should say, under which new trade agreements may be negotiated. We need to get our trade policy jump started again in this country, so we support, having that be available to be used.
Great. And as we kind of went throughout the year, and there had been some pretty significant kind of natural disasters too in other parts of the US. And as we got into the end of the year and past the election, there was still a little glimmer of hope that potentially they could get a farm bill done before the end of the year. But as that kind of seemed to slip a little further out of view after the election, and that a farm bill didn't have an updated safety net. Some focus in Congress in December really shifted towards the disaster assistance that was needed, as well as an economic assistance package. And the economic assistance is intended to help farmers kind of weather the current financial conditions until that new farm bill with an updated safety net can be put in place. So at the end of the year, Congress did end up authorizing $10 billion for economic assistance, and it's estimated that Minnesota farmers could receive in total up to 619 million in assistance. So Dana, I'm wondering if you can speak a little to MCGA's support for this assistance, and then what it will mean for Minnesota corn farmers.
So like I kind of talked about earlier, if the farm bill did not strengthen our safety net and we were going into year two of record high cost of production as well as commodity prices falling, we had an idea that there was going to be some concern. So in July, I had the opportunity to testify before the House Ag Committee with Chairman Thompson, and kind of laying that groundwork to say that Minnesota really went through some struggles this spring. We had producers who had multiple replants that got flooded out. We had flooding over by Mankato and all along the western border. And so I think that groundwork that we did in July and the relationships that we built through our fly-ins really allowed our words or our concerns to be heard by the members who we needed to hear, who needed to hear it. Coming into fruition then, as we got to harvest, a lot of those realities came through with average production being low in Minnesota and hearing from lenders that we started hearing from lenders this summer, and even at Farm Fest, that they were concerned about how hard it was going to be in order to renew operating lines of credits and so on. And so we are really proud of the work that we did with our legislators, and we're unbelievably thankful for the amount of fight and grit that they had to put forward in December, when we knew it was really a divisive time, to fight for Minnesota's farmers. And we hope that this really kind of bridges the gap for 2024, but we will be back advocating in 2025 for a farm bill that has way more farm in it than that reflects today's cost of production and where Minnesota farmers are and what we need to be profitable to continue to provide the food and fiber for the country.
Yeah, that's a great explanation as to what this assistance means and how we're going to continue to push for that farm bill, because it still is needed. And so just to kind of close out, Jim, I'm just wondering if, in addition, I know we definitely are going to be continuing to work on the farm bill reauthorization, but what are some of the other policy priorities, federal policy priorities that are on our list for 2025?
I guess start out with probably E15. We were really close to getting it here at the end of the year, but it got left out of the final continuing resolution. So that's hopefully something that we can get pushed across the finish line next year when we hit it so close now. Another new exciting thing is the sustainable aviation fuel. There's some new tax credit rules that should hopefully be coming out, 45Z. We're hoping that they're very inclusive and open to all feedstocks that can be used in sustainable aviation fuel. We hope that they don't go with the 40B model where they bundled everything together in one group that you had to do. Another thing that we are going to be advocating on and following is the EPA's Endangered Species Act. That's going to be a very complex set of regulations that corn farmers may have to follow to help with the endangered species, to follow the Endangered Species Act. I guess those are some of the top federal priorities that we'll be working on this year.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And then also the other one too is probably related to some of the tax pieces as well, as we know that there are several provisions that are set to expire that were passed in 2017 that expire this year that have an impact on Minnesota farmers. Well, great. I really appreciate both of you for all your work this last year and the work that we'll be doing going into this next year as well, with some really important things at the federal level for corn farmers, for some things that got done last year and a lot of work that needs to be done in the coming year as well. So thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks.